There is this story that I was just thinking about, and I kind of connected it to another thought on like narcissistic abuse as a child from a parent. And so I wanted to share it before it went away. Okay, so there's this story, and it says there's a father, and he has two sons, and they reach a certain age, adulthood, whatever. The father has an inheritance that he's going to give them both, and he says to them both, I guess they're twins or whatever, but he gives them a chicken, and he says, take this chicken where no one can see you and kill it, and come back, and I'll give you your inheritance. And so the first son, he goes off and goes into an alleyway in the middle of the night. No one's around. Kills the chicken, and the next day brings it back to his dad. Gets his inheritance, right? And the second son, he's gone for a week, and he finally comes back, and he still has the chicken alive. And his father says, "What are you doing? Why haven't you killed the chicken where no one could see to get your inheritance?" And the son goes, "Well, everywhere I went, the chicken saw me." And so I really love this story for a lot of different reasons. One, just because it kind of makes you thinking about things differently, if that makes sense. Like we have our stereotypical normal ways of deciphering instructions or knowledge, and then there's another way to look at it that is also just as valid, and but I was just thinking on this story and what it is that is that difference between the two sons, rather, like what made one consider the chicken and one not. And it got me thinking about kind of like how a lot of humans, I think a lot of us are born kind of into this like egocentric kind of viewpoint, and not necessarily born into it. Maybe we develop it in childhood rather as like a means of survival, just as like a physical being. There's a level of egocentricity that is necessary to ensure survival. We have to make sure we get food and we get water and all this stuff. We have to think about ourselves. That's why children cry when they need something. But eventually this is supposed to fade as we grow and we enter adulthood, and our frontal lobe becomes developed, our reasoning and logic abilities grow. And so we have to be pushing what we know, right? So we can grow with our brain's capacity. And I feel like the narcissistic personality disordered parent kind of has this childlike level of egocentric traits, where they are more like that first son, in the parable or story or whatever, where they believe if no one sees them do this thing, it's almost like it didn't happen, despite the fact that there's this very real being that is in the story being killed. And so similarly, like in the abusive parent and child dynamic, the parent has this like assumption a lot of times, like they're not going to abuse around someone they think can get them in trouble, but they're willing to abuse this child because they know this child can't get them in trouble. So it's like it doesn't count for them. They like give themselves like a mental and spiritual free pass or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to I've been trying to decipher what makes a parent like abuse their child, because it's something that is so like far removed from my own natural understanding of life that it's like a morbid fascination, but it's also like I need to understand why, to like reconcile in myself, and make peace with it, because it's hard to make peace with something that we don't understand, and that's a whole other skill in itself, to make peace with things we don't understand. But anyways, I wanted to talk about, it's like regular parents, I feel like they're like that second son. Like they understand that anything they do to their child, the child is witnessing, even though they can't speak for themselves when they're a newborn infant. Anything that they're witnessing is still impactful on them. They are still there witnessing you, even in your quiet, used to be private moments. But the narcissistic parent doesn't seem to have the same kind of I guess, map of reality or like understanding of the child. Many narcissistic parents seem to see their children merely as extensions of themselves rather than as like individual people. So when they are abusing their child, no one's around. No one's seeing it. That's them. They're just abusing themselves. And I do think that many people with narcissistic personality disorder, they probably have some kind of really like negative inner thoughts that like maybe they're not conscious of or something that make them feel like they need to prove constantly how like great they are. I don't know. I really do feel like low self-esteem and narcissism are like tied together, because when there is that lack of security in self, that is when people overcompensate. And I think narcissism is like overcompensation for self-worth. You don't actually feel worthy, and so you must like just go above and beyond consciously to like get that little dopamine rush that tells you you're good, because you don't give that to yourself naturally. But yeah, I'm digressing again. I really love that story. And I think it really highlighted like a duality of perspectives that can occur in the world. And really there's infinite facets of perspectives that can occur in any one situation. And I think it's just good to always be cognizant of that. And I think for me, I like being able to figure out the why behind all the different situations, how they occur, why they happen, like all that. I think that's part of the fun of life, is seeing the infinite stories. It's like it's the mystery you're always figuring out. But yeah, I just wanted to share that little story and that interesting interpretation that my brain jumped to, because I thought it was relevant for narcissistic abuse recovery. Just some food for thought. All right, I hope you all have a good one. Bye.